Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Sin Permiso, a Latina lifestyle podcast. Welcome to another episode of Sin Permiso, a Latina lifestyle podcast. Today I have with me the CEO of Linway Associates, my friend, my associate, Lou Markakis.
Peggy, it's just great to see you. Thank you for the invite. I'm very impressed with the set, and it's great to see our old friends here. Kevin's in the house. It was great to meet Nelson, and it's always nice to see you.
Thank you, Lou, and that means a lot coming from an Emerson College graduate. And I want to say he is the master of political communication. This is an art, this is a skill, this is not easily found, made, or picked up. I say sometimes either you're born with it or you're not. And Lou, you definitely have been born with it.
Okay, thank you. It was an interesting major to take. I was called a non-traditional student. You know, the first time around at 17, when I graduated high school, you know, all we cared about was soccer, baseball, and how many dates we could get. So when I realized the value of education, I went back to Emerson. I was 35 years old at the time. And so I looked at communications. What's communications all about? So I happened to go to Emerson. I got the vibe. It's very artsy. It's the only college in the country that's strictly communications. So within the communications department, I noticed political communication. I said, what's this all about? I ended up meeting the director of the program. So he gave me the overview of the speech writing, running campaigns, how to take a negative ad and turn it into a positive ad, and things like that.
Cool.
So, and Emerson was just, for me, absolutely the right choice.
Emerson for me was a dream. I never told you that, but I had a dream. I said, I want to go to Emerson College. I love communications. But for X or Y reason, I ended up in business. But at the end of the day, when I was 19 years old, I had a radio program. And now I have this podcast. So
Yes.
we can all, live out our dreams in one way or another. But in your case, I find you as so interesting because you have a myriad of experience. You're an excellent communicator. And, I found a lot of other podcasts and a lot of other books actually say that there's a direct correlation between your ability to communicate and the amount of money that you make. You and I know this. Nowadays, college, I think it's a business in many cases. There's a lot of kids studying business and they're paying the big bucks, but either they're great communicators or they're not. And if they're not, yes, they can learn. Yes, they can pick it up. But I definitely must say that is one of the most important skill sets that any young person today can learn.
Yeah, and I'm part of the Emerson Alumni Referral Network. So we make a commitment to help any students that want to know about Emerson, want to know about communications. So one of the things I suggest to 17-year-old, 18-year-old graduates is you pick the college for the program. Depending if you want business, these are the places that really excel in business. We got such great schools here in Massachusetts. You don't have to go to Harvard. Suffolk is fantastic.
Suffolk is great.
And in my case, I just wanted to learn about communications. And for me, I spent one semester in Washington as part of what they call the Washington Semester Program. So one semester you go to Washington. This was at the American University. So 3 days a week you have classes, 2 days a week you have an internship, and that's one semester. That program has been going on for, I think, almost 100 years.
That's very important to know because we need to know more about programs like this for our youth. So I'm going to go back. Let's go backwards in time, Lou. We've talked about when you went to college. We know, we're going to get into politics in a minute. But let's talk about what I find really interesting and cool. I told you earlier, I've never met a Puerto Rican Greek. Half Puerto Rican, half
great.
Greek. How did this
Great.
happen? Grew up in
So
Lynn,
the
round
brief
the
history,
corner.
yep, my dad was on the island San Juan. He was at the base, I think it was El Morro in that area.
Yes.
And my mother was a telephone operator on the base. And so
How
we're talking
romantic.
1945, and 5 kids later, here I am. I'm the youngest of five, and yeah, we had Abuela in the house and Yaya, so I had both. The
Abuela
Greek,
y Yaya.
yeah,
Oh
in the
my
family,
God.
and that was a nice upbringing. Lynn guy, public schools, Lynn English, and it was a good run. Lynn, I thought, gave me a good base and a good foundation because it was integrated, public school. It was good for me.
I don't know if I'm being biased, but I feel like the Latin countries, I mean, Greek people are very passionate, romantic. Puerto Ricans
Oh,
are
thank you.
Latin, romantic, passionate. I think that also maybe has something to do with your communication skills because it just flows very well. When I met you, I said, "Wow, this guy's really well put together. He communicates very well." People gravitate towards you. People like you, Lou, and it's not just because of your personality. I will say that you prepare yourself. You're very organized. You do the research. When you show up, you're prepared. You have everything in line, and that brings me to the next concept where you get into politics. You loved it. You had a passion. You took political communication. How did you transfer that into your daily life in your career?
Yeah, well, the school that Emerson, of course, I ended up running campaigns. So I had people inspire me. And when I got out of Emerson at that time, Mike Dukakis was the governor. Happened to be Greek, asked me to help him. He had won, then he lost to Ed King. And that's when I got the call, we need you on the team, and the Greek connection. Lou, we need you to help out on the North Shore. And, I was a young kid and I was inspired by him. And so we helped him. He won. And he's a wonderful guy and a true gentleman. I don't agree with him politically on everything.
Of course
but
not.
he's the guy that inspired me to get involved at a deeper level with politics.
Mentorship at the right moment is
And that
key.
turned out to, I've been involved with more than 100 campaigns, local, state, federal, governor's races. And what it's done is it helped me learn about not only communication, but about getting your phone calls returned. And there's a certain way to do that. People, if you get your phone calls returned, that's a goal that I worked on, and I feel good about myself when I make the calls and I get the return calls. So whether you're dealing with your municipality, as we do, and one of the tough things for our real estate people is going into a new municipality. So you might grow up in Saugus, now all of a sudden you're doing business or you're selling a house in Taunton. Well, what's the political scene and what do I have to do to be successful in Taunton?
What's the climate? Who do I need to know?
Yeah, and when I came to Century 21, and Jim D'Amico was a great, not only Jimmy Jr., but the dad was an inspiration for me. And when they asked me to come and join, I had just resigned from the Big Dig. I was with Mass Highway, and Jimmy sort of sought me out, whatever. We ended up here in Revere, and that's how I met you, Peggy. And I do believe in life, everything happens for a reason. And I feel fortunate to have worked with you.
Likewise.
I think that one of your greatest assets, not only is your communication skills, but you're a great delegator. You know how to delegate. And as Jimmy would say, Lou, don't get stuck in the minutia. And so you have great systems and great processes. I learned a lot from you. That's why I brought you in on the biggest deal that I got in Revere, which was the 18 new condos.
We sold condos that you brought me in on, and we sold those in
One weekend.
1 weekend, 1.5 weeks.
Yeah, so Peggy had, the marketing and the organizational skills, and it really paired well with me and with Robbie, and we were very successful. Too bad we didn't have two more of those, but it's okay.
Too bad we don't have enough property to sell, enough condo, enough affordable units to sell in the city.
Well, I think a shout out should go to the great city of Revere, because quite honestly, I got more done in Revere in the 3 or 4 years that I was here, starting with the synagogue project, where we actually turned the synagogue into the first veterans preference housing on the North Shore. And we were fortunate, and you were there, thank you. When Governor Baker came with the ribbon cutting, you talk about a public-private partnership. That was a perfect example of the city getting involved with a private developer, and it was a win-win for everybody.
Of course.
And of course, our great city councilor here, Ira, brought the deal and he said, I'm going to bring you this project, Lou, but it's got to be for veterans.
Yes.
Do you have somebody?
Yes, yes.
I said, absolutely. We made one phone call to our friend who was looking for a local deal, happens to be a revered developer, and local guys wanted to do local deals. And so that's how that was successful. And we did that deal. Then Peggy and I worked on 1133 North Shore Road with the help of the Nikasian family and this administration. And we were fortunate with a lot of first-time home buyers, and we felt good about having people come to Revere and getting a vested interest in the city.
100%. And like with your political experience, with your communication experience, with your real estate experience, Lou, commercial is a whole different animal. And a lot of realtors, I feel, get nervous about getting into commercial. You know, how would you tell them? What advice could you give them to make that jump?
The transition. Well, the first thing, if you're doing commercial, a lot of that will come with space, office space, retail space, rentals. So you really got to get familiar with the leases, the terms of the leases. But generally speaking, you know, what's the lessee looking for? Well, I'm looking for a retail space. I want to open a fast food restaurant. So the first thing the broker should do is get the criteria sheet. It's pretty much the same as the residential, Peggy, but in this case, you've got to be clear and focused on the criteria sheet. Some tenants are going to want a lot of floor traffic, like a restaurant. So that's the criteria. Other people don't care if they're on the second floor.
Exactly.
They don't need the walk-in traffic. So once you get the criteria sheet, then you can do your search, and nobody's better than that than you. The query, and for the brokers that want to segue into commercial, I would suggest getting familiar with leases and what are some of the terms and the particulars of leases. Get familiar with that. Find out what the applicant is looking for and zone in, and you do your search, you match up. Basically, you're a matchmaker. That's what we do. You find out what the needs are of the lessee, and hopefully you'll know a few landlords. You can direct them in the right area, and you'll be successful in that. Once you do that, that comes along with sales. You know, we were fortunate on Squire Road. We had a mixed-use building, about 10 different stores, outdated building. It was zoned properly. It was zoned in the highway business district. What was good for the city? A hotel. Good for the city. Good for the taxes. And what I've learned is it's the least drain on city services.
Of course.
Versus, you know, a high-maintenance school, which requires police and fire. So the hotel was good for the city, was good for the developer. We put that together, and we proceeded to get 3 permits for the hotels on Squire Road.
That's amazing, though. You've been involved in a lot of these projects that, you know, have been able to pass for the city, whether it's for additional housing, veterans housing, over 55, resale, which is really important. And that you've also solidified yourself as, you know, that political connector, right? You're also a networker. You connect people. What would be one piece of advice as we're wrapping up that you would give someone young that is thinking about getting into politics?
Well, first of all, you got to go to the area and you got to congregate and conjugate with people that are in the business. So you make sure you bring your business cards, plenty of them.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, don't be afraid to go up and, if it's an elected official, don't be afraid to go up and introduce yourself. Hi, congratulations. I'd like to know a little about more what you do, Mr. Representative. Last night we had Jeff Turco there.
Yep.
Repping Winthrop, Revere. I know a little bit of East Boston, I think. Our senator was there, Lydia Edwards.
Lydia Edwards.
And they're not only great communicators, they're great networkers. And so that's a big part of it. You can't be afraid to pass your cards out. You can't be afraid to take numbers and follow up and, you know, find your niche, whatever that might be. If it's politics, maybe you want to help out as the director of operations. You don't have to be the campaign manager. There's so many jobs for elected officials, they need help. And that's one way. And then you see if you want to be out front or maybe in the back, but it all is part of a team. And you need to have good teamwork. Whether you're in this business, you have a great team, and you're all about teams. And that's important. I've noticed that.
Can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Can't
The
do
other
it
thing
alone.
is, I surround myself with people that are smarter than me. So if I
love
want to
that.
know about zoning, I'm going to go hang around and try and sit in. Do you mind if I sit in and watch how you do this, attorney? Do you mind if I pick your brain? Do you mind if I learn what you're doing and maybe I can bring you some clients? So for me, working in the law office for a few years, I was a paralegal. I did title searches. I was at the registry for 2 years learning about titles. So now I can know it's a clear title and what you have to do to get a clear title to convey a property. So, and then dealing with lawyers. As you know, Peggy, we deal with a lot of attorneys. And it's important because in Massachusetts, you cannot convey a property without an attorney. Other states, they have escrow offices. In Massachusetts, we have attorneys, and most of them do a great job. And so I would surround yourself with people that are where you want to go.
Or where you want to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Lou, you have over 40 years of experience. You
Imagine.
are a student
Imagine.
of politics. You're a student of communication. You're a student of real estate. You're a student of networking. You're a student of making things happen. You're a connector. I am very happy to have met you. I'm very happy to have been able to work with you, to continue to collaborate with you on business and future ventures. And lastly, I want to thank you for coming on and giving us some golden nuggets, spreading what you know, sharing the wealth of knowledge that you've acquired, and continue doing what you're doing for the community, for homeowners, for business owners. And again, thanks for being a friend and a mentor as well.
It's great to see you, Peggy. It's always great to see you. I've learned a lot from you. I wish you nothing but the best, and I know you're going to be successful no matter what you do.
Thank you, Lou.
All right, great to
I
see you.
appreciate it.